I didn't start my recording like I said I would. Okay. All right. Looks like it's working. I actually don't do Zoom very much, so you're gonna have to forgive my shortcomings with Zoom and screen sharing, but also I hope that this will be a benefit for you, and if not something that you're ready to transition to now, perhaps something that you would consider transitioning to in the future. So I said that in the goal for this presentation that I'm making, again, on my ordination anniversary for the recording, for people who didn't get that 14 years ago today, and in Palm Bay, Florida, I was ordained at my home church there. And I just want to celebrate what a gift you all are to the church right now. They need people who have grown up around computers and who know enough of what they're doing to not be getting in the way, and finding new and good ways to communicate. So this is the time we've been called for better or for worse. So it is what it is, and I thank God has given us these wonderful tools to keep us connected with our churches. And one of the real benefits that I find to live streaming is that for me, at least, I find the live experience to be the only remaining semblance of gathering for worship. I'll admit it. It's a selfish reason. I could pre-record and I could have it premiere at a set time of worship, but kicking back in that moment and watching on my TV is a very different experience than leading worship with people who are gathered at that time. So I hope that you may be feeling the same way. There's not only one way to do this, and I'm not here to judge the way that other people do their worship. Everybody's doing what works for them and what they know. I'm here to try and teach you something a little bit newer that you might just add to your arsenal, or maybe a less militaristic term, your toolkit for live streaming worship. And OBS stands for Open Broadcasting Software. It's an open source free program that's available on PC, Mac, and Linux variants. So you've got no excuse not to run OBS from an OS standpoint. And it was originally designed for people who stream their gameplay. Gamers were the ones who came up with this, and they came up with a really powerful tool. I had used it actually before the COVID-19 crisis in making a screen share of a tutorial of telling people how to sign up for our Facebook closed group. So I went through and just basically walked them through the steps on our page. That was my first video that I made with OBS, and I posted it, and that was maybe a year or two ago. And when the COVID-19 crisis broke out, I had seen some people talking about using it, and I was like, okay, well, that seems like something that I already have used, and I know that it's powerful. One thing that OBS does that your phone does not really enable you to do is to switch sources. You can have more than one camera. You can have, for instance, I use a Microsoft Surface Book, which has a 1080p front-facing camera. So it's great. And even though it was made in 2015, it's still up to modern standards of broadcast. A lot of laptops, I just tried to buy a new laptop for Hope, and I was looking for one with a 1080p built-in front-facing camera. And I was surprised by how few are actually sent out with that now. But most of them do have a 720p camera. And so even with an older or less than top-of-the-line laptop, you can run OBS. And if you have a front-facing and back-facing camera, as my computer does, you actually have two cameras built in that you can use if you set up strategically and that works for you. So what I'm saying is you don't need to invest in extra equipment in order to use OBS, because chances are you already have what you need. If you have an external webcam, or you buy an external webcam, you can buy a 1080p webcam from any number of Chinese manufacturers that are making them all pretty much the same guts inside. And they're like 50 bucks for a 1080p webcam with a pretty decent microphone array in it. It's not gonna be the top of the line, but you don't need top of the line. You need good enough. You need good enough to not get in the way of your worship. So even with that and a USB extension cable, you could have a 2-camera setup in your church for an total investment of 50 bucks. Sounds pretty good, right? Okay. If you have a DSLR or a camcorder with an HDMI output, you have the ability to get more like broadcast quality from a camcorder or a DSLR that outputs HDMI video. Okay, I'm going to show you the equipment that I use in just a second. But with that, you can have a 2-camera setup with 2 microphones in them. Your microphone does matter, by the way. So if your laptop mic isn't any good, you can invest in a USB microphone to use instead, or if you already have one because you're a podcast legend like Eric Fissler is, you know, you've probably already got a fancy microphone. You can plug that in and use it, because you can select which audio source to use with which video source. One of the other key reasons to use OBS is that you can insert pre-recorded videos into your live stream. So your musicians can record something, send it to you on their phone, which they already know how to do. You want them to send it in the highest resolution possible. So you want them to upload it to their Google Drive or their iCloud or whatever your variant is. You want them to upload the high resolution video. But you can insert that with just a keystroke into the middle of your live stream and then come back to the camera. So you can run a multi-person worship with just you and your laptop. That's a really compelling reason. And if you get really good at this, you can actually superimpose your lyrics on top of the screen for your musical pieces with another piece of open free software that's called OpenLP, which was designed for use in churches that are more contemporary worship based for controlling their laptops. And guess what? All the public domain hymn lyrics are already in there. Now you can clean them up and put in the UCC version, you know, to get rid of all of the patriarchy and, you know, all the other problems that exist in public domain hymns. But you can do that, and you can actually decide how many lines you want on a screen. I'm not going to go into detail on that today, but I do have a link that I'm going to share with you if you're interested in learning how to do that on your own, or you're already familiar with OpenLP. So I hope that this makes a compelling case for you to think about it. Now, what I want to talk a little bit about just in a little bit further detail is the equipment that I use. I'm going to see if I can share my screen here. I need to switch some windows out, and I probably need to deactivate that. All right. So I'm going to go share now. Whoops. See, I'm not a Zoomer. All right. So here, I switched over to my other camera. Now, actually, with the piece of equipment I'm going to show you, can you hear me now? Can you hear me? It's picking up from the camera microphone still. So, or well, I'm not sure. Zoom. Oh, okay. No, it hasn't switched my mic. All right. So anyway, you can actually use this piece of equipment with Zoom, as I'm using right now, and just switch your video source. And that is, again, another thing that was made for streamers. And it is a video capture card that's a USB 3.0 video capture card. You put HDMI into it, and you get 1080p video out of it. So I've got a fancy camcorder that has a built-in gimbal, so it's nice and smooth. But I want to just show you, this is the Elgato HD60S Plus. Now, there's a number of different capture cards out there. Okay, Elgato is one of the best brands. They were definitely invented for the, it's ELGATO, like the cat in Spanish, one word. They do a lot of this, this streaming equipment for gamers. Now there's some really great fancy, if your church has the money and you want to go whole hog into this, they've got hardware that you can buy that have switching buttons that actually, and there's a soft app you can get for your phone if you want to have control over switching your sources. And I'll show you how to do that in just a minute, just in a basic introduction. But this is, these are gold right now, these video capture cards. Elgato does make a camera specific variant called the, I forget what it's called, but it's basically like a 4K cam link capture card, excuse me. Sold out all over the country. I tried to buy one at the beginning of this crisis and it was back ordered for months and months. Everybody knows this, okay? Everybody who's having to broadcast the broadcast news from home has bought up all of these devices, okay? So you're gonna have to shop around a little bit, but this HD 60 Plus, this will do 60 frame 1080p broadcast, which is way more than what you need. Okay, it's way more than what you need to be able to broadcast a good worship service. 1080p, 30 frames a second is a great way to broadcast your service, and it'll look good on even the big screen that somebody's watching from home. Okay, so you need the video capture card if you want to hook up an HDMI source. Just a word of caution in case you try to get cute and play a DVD or something like that. This is unsecured HDMI that your cameras put out. It is not the digitally locked down variant that happens when you play a DVD. There's a handshake that happens with HDMI. So don't think you're going to be able to plug in a DVD player and be able to have it be a source. There's copyright protections built into the hardware itself. That's just a word of caution. But with pretty much any DSLR from really the last 8 or 9 years, you're going to have an HDMI video output on that, or even a mirrorless camera. A lot of those will have an HDMI output or a camcorder, but that makes for a great 2-camera setup, and then you've got your flexibility covered and it's visually appealing. One other thing about OBS is that you can actually do screen overlays, okay? So you can have a title screen, and I'm gonna pull up my OBS right now. Oh, let me just, before I do that, I wanna just cover a little bit more about the equipment. I'm sorry. I really wanted this to be a little bit more polished than it is, but don't we wish that about so many things right now? Oh, whoops. Okay, there we go. All right, now I'm back to my camera. Okay, so one other thing that you may want is a video output device to run a separate monitor from your laptop. I have a tech person now controlling the stream from a remote distance. I've got him socially distanced from me. I've got a 20-foot extension cable that connects to his monitor, and I have a Bluetooth keyboard and mouse. I recommend Bluetooth over a standard wireless 2.4 gigahertz because it's more reliable connection, and you can have 2 of them at the same time operating, so you can fight with your tech person over what the next scene is. Okay, but I recommend a nice cheap Bluetooth wireless keyboard set, like this Microsoft one was like, I think $50 or so from Amazon. One other thing that you might want is a USB 3.0 hub that's powered. That's gonna allow you to have multiple cameras connected, and also be able to have enough power going to them that is things that are powered devices, like this video capture card is powered by the USB. Oh, and I love my laptop stand. I'm going to show that off because I really do like it. I got that on Amazon as well, and I put up a link, I think, in the cohort. And I have a nice little 10-inch ring light and a little clip that goes on that. So I'm well lit, and it's an optimal position for me to stand up behind it. Okay. Whew. All right. So let me get to the program itself. That's all optional equipment. You can do this with just your laptop, especially if you have a MacBook Pro or something else with a really good front-facing camera. And a good microphone array, because the sound matters a lot too. So if your laptop has scrappy sound, consider investing in a separate webcam to run from. But USB 3.0, if you can go that route, use it. You can also, instead of the video capture card that I showed you that uses mini DisplayPort, you can use USB 3.0 as an HDMI output. There are video cards that you can run off of that if you want to extend your video to another monitor. That's something to keep in mind, especially if you have a tech person who is running it. They're going to need to see what's going on, and you're going to want to see what's going on too. Or at least I do. Maybe that's just me as a control freak. I want to know what's happening. All right, so let's get to the program. Let me share my screen. So, so I asked you to download it and install it. Once it installs, you've got a pretty nice interface here. I've got to get my Zoom bar docked out of the way somewhere else. If I put it, I don't know where it's not going to be a problem. Thanks, Zoom. Okay. Anyway, so right here, there's the auto configuration wizard, which it's going to ask you to run pretty much when you install it. I believe you have the ability to back up your profile, which is all of your settings and your scene collections, and you can do a different one for each week. This is basically the profile is your week-to-week setup, or if you have broadcasts from different locations or different equipment setups, you can pick that here and set that up dependent on your equipment. And the scene collection is really within those profiles. Within a scene, you go down here to add a new scene, and you'll see, I'm just going to start a test scene here, and you'll see what kind of options you have for sources. Okay. You can capture, and you can layer these, so you can stack them up. So whatever is on the top of the stack is above the other ones in the video. So it layers them on top of each other. You can show a web browser, you can show a color source, you can show a display capture, which is what I'm doing right now with the, you can capture your screen output, or you can capture from a camera. Most of the time you're gonna have your front camera, which is being occupied by Zoom right now, but my external camera is not occupied by Zoom. And so it's switching, and you can see here we have the audio. You can, when you do your audio configuration, it's going to set up your base canvas. It's going to ask you whether you want to stream and recording is secondary, or if you just want to record. Even if you don't live stream, you can use this as a recording tool. We're going to optimize it for streaming, and it's going to ask you what your base resolution is. And so you got some basic broadcast options. In most cases, I would recommend that you go with 1080p, and your frame rate, which is really 30 per second, is a good frame rate. That's kind of a universal. And it's going to depend on what sources you have available. Excuse me. If you don't have I think he'll let you still use a 1080p canvas and a 720p webcam, but you'll see it as smaller than the screen on the preview here. You can actually resize your screen. This is unlocked right now, the red frame around that video. All right, so we're gonna set that up. And then it wants to know what your service is. So you can stream to Twitch if your church is really that hip. YouTube, Facebook Live. Restreamio is one that allows you to broadcast live on Facebook and YouTube at the same time, and other ones, Twitter. But I've got Facebook Live. Now, what you see here is the stream key, and this is really important to remember. This is your key. That's a private key for the permission to broadcast as your page. So this is really important, and I'm going to show you how to get that in my workflow. But right now, we're going to come back to that. So I have had problems with software encoding, so I want to prefer hardware encoding. I've had some stutters with software encoding that uses more CPU, and I have a graphics card in my computer. And so you estimate your bit rate with a bandwidth test as well, and you can go ahead and stream through the bandwidth test. It's determined some settings that are optimal for me that I can't read. Okay, so there you go. And then you can click apply settings somewhere. Where was that? Maybe it was, there we go. Okay, apply settings. Great. All right, so you go through that auto configuration, then you have settings where you can tweak things. And there's really quite a bit of control over the look and feel of the program and what your needs are. You can automatically record. You can set up a delay in the live stream that keeps a buffer in your computer. That's probably a good idea, especially if you have a slow processor. And you can set hotkeys. This is great. I've set hotkeys for all of my sources that I can switch to on the fly by just hitting Alt and the number that I've assigned over here. So Alt 2 takes you to the front camera. Alt plus the period switches between scenes. I find that these hotkeys are really important to learn and also to use, especially if you're running by yourself. Audio output, you can do your sample rate, all these other things. But if you just want to broadcast, the easiest way is to do the auto configuration, put in your stream key, and then start your video, which is going to take me over to the next stage of the presentation, and that is my basic workflow. Here's a video that I've inserted into the service.
Peace be with you.
I don't have the sound broadcasting through Zoom right now.
Peace be with you.
But, you know, a little passing of the peace in there, and, you know, put up a little, this is just an image that broadcasts at the end of my worship to join us for a virtual coffee hour. So, you know, that's just a view of some of the things that you can do. You can lay lyrics over any single one of these things. I have it set up for the front camera and the back camera to have lyrics over it, and I'll run that with different programs. So, all right, now to take you through my workflow. And this is where you're gonna find your stream key. Okay, so on Facebook, if you're signed in as your church page, oops, oh, I've got to share the right screen. Sorry about that. Okay. Hey, you guys can, I think, holler at me if I'm not doing something, or if you have a question, feel free to interrupt. But this is the most important thing to know. Now on Facebook, we've set it up so that we have a live tab all the time. You need to tell Facebook that you want all of your live videos to stream there. but I think that everybody's going to have create live on their page. So go ahead and click that, and that should take you to the live producer, okay? If you've done this on your computer at all and not your phone, hopefully this looks a little bit familiar to you. On your phone, you don't have these options, which is why I use OBS. All right. I'm using a little bandwidth for the Zoom meeting, so it's slower than normal here. Come on. It's trying. There we go. All right. So first, you don't want to go live now. You want to schedule a live video. Okay. So you go to schedule a live video, and then it will ask you for some information and give you some information. So you want to share it. You want to schedule the post. So I could schedule it for Sunday at 9:30 here if I was going to do that. And then it lets you write a blurb like you would on any post, what you want to say about your worship to try and get people to come to it. It does let you enter a video title as well. And I generally just call it Sunday Worship and the date on mine. It lets you select an image that will be in your post preview over here to the right. You can see the post preview. It's just got our cover page on there right now. But I go to Canva and I make an image every week for the specific worship that I hope will be, you know, exciting to people. So I'll pick this one that was from, or here, I'll pick this one from a couple weeks ago, just to give you an idea. And now we'll see it there as on the right side. And then any text that you type in this box over here would show up as a teaser for your video. Don't do what I did and don't make text too small on here to read. If you're going to put text on that, you want it to be big enough to read. Just a tip that I didn't follow. Okay, here's some other things that you'll need to know. The live tab on pages, I recommend you do that if you use Facebook Live as your primary thing. It makes it so that your videos are always available at the same stream or at the same link. That's a really good idea for your elderly people who are always like, what's that link again? Because once you teach them that it's as easy as clicking on that link, they can do it. Use a persistent stream key. I recommend this because then you don't have to copy it and paste it every time into OBS. Once you put it in there, it stays. And here's your stream key, okay? You can copy it and then paste it. It'll copy it to your clipboard, and then you paste it into where that said stream key on your OBS setup, okay? And that's under stream and settings is where that setting is as well. The default for the Facebook server is fine. You don't have to mess with that, but you just copy your stream key and then you paste it into your other, into OBS where it asks for a stream key. And that's really about it. You've got some other settings here. This one I want to draw your attention to, this embed your live video. That lets you put a code on your church's webpage. You could set up a page for live viewing for people who are Facebook phobic. It will never nag you to get a Facebook account. Like you'll get nagged if you go to your Facebook Live page. People without a Facebook account will get nagged. So you can get an embed code here, and you basically just copy this HTML and put it in your website, and bam, they can watch it right on your website, anything that you put in there, or this specific video, okay? I do this every week, copy the embed code and put it on our website now. There is this ability to do a dial-in number. They're trying to compete with Zoom. I haven't had anybody use it, so I don't know whether it's any good or not. Obviously, they're not going to have video, but if you need that, it's here. You can limit commenting if you've had a problem with Zoom bombing or something like that in the past. You can limit comments or keep you know, make it however protected you want, like only people who have liked your page can comment or whatever. Okay, so once you paste your stream key in, then your post is out there. People can share it. You can share it in any in-house groups, closed groups that you have. You can share it personally. You can encourage your members to share, and it will take people to that link. Okay, it'll take people to that post. And you can also set up a cross-posting relationship if you have a relationship with another church in town where they can cross-post your service, or they you theirs. If you set up that, it requires permission on both sides. Okay. So once you do that, once you put in your time, your description, title, image, then you go to schedule live video. Now it will say automatically start, but that will automatically start with not with your OBS. You have to go to manually, you have to disable the automatic start, and you have to manually start the video. When you start your stream on OBS, you will see, you'll see a preview. I'm gonna go live now so you can see the video preview. Okay, you'll see this preview up here. When you start your stream, your video will be live on this page. You need to be on this page as an admin to start your video. When you do, you'll see it live here, and then you click go live to actually make it go out live into Facebook land. That gives you a chance to preview your stream and see if you have any problems with your bandwidth before you actually take the video live. Facebook recommends you do it 20 minutes before you start your service. They'll let you do it up to 5 hours after before your service. But after 5 hours, they consider your video dead if you started a preview but didn't take it live. So that's something to be aware of. But really, you can do it an hour or 20 minutes before to make sure that everything's working. And you do that by starting your stream on, hang on a second. Okay, so starting your stream on OBS, you just go here to, I gotta move my Zoom pictures out of the way. Okay, start streaming, and you can record it as well. Okay, and that will take you live. You'll see your video on screen. If you go to studio mode, that is basically giving you a preview of what is up next and the ability to have a controlled transition between the two. One thing I want to talk about with doing audio is making sure that you can hear the audio that is being shared. And so in this video of passing of the peace that I did, and I'm going to switch out of studio mode here to show you this.
Peace be with you.
If you don't change the audio properties, let's see here, cancel. Where's my advanced audio properties? Let's see here. Okay. Well, here, okay, so right click on this, advanced audio properties. Make sure if you want to hear it, that you go to monitor and output. If you want to hear it on your computer, you have to do that. If monitor off is off, you won't hear it, but it will be going live. And if you want to monitor only, you have that capability. But you can actually mix your sounds together here. So you could have video and mic live at the same time. As well. So I turn down the sources for everything I'm not using to infinity, so I don't have to worry about that being broadcast through my computer. You also have some basic level controls here if it's too loud or too soft, and there are audio filters that you can insert. So you can insert a compressor or a limiter, expander, noise gate. If you know what you're doing, if you don't, then don't do it. Okay, so then once you have your scenes, and your scenes really should be your different scenes that you're doing in the service. and your sources. Like I do most of mine with front camera and external camera, and I switch between those two things during the broadcast. Anything else that you want to have as a part of it, you should make a scene, and I set up a hotkey for it so I can make it live right away. Okay. All right. Once you start streaming, you'll see the live video here and you click go live, and then you know it's broadcasting. I always recommend looking at your phone to make sure that it is broadcasting okay. You can't see, once you've hidden this, you're not going to see anybody else's comments. You're not watching it the same way as you were before. So let's see here. All right. So that's the basics, and you can overlay a transparent lyrics from that open LP if you want to. You can just stack them up in OBS in that different scene setting, and that's where you can adjust your audio levels and everything too, especially if somebody's loud or soft or what have you. I want to open up for any questions that you might have. Maybe something that I didn't cover in detail. I can tell you how to just quickly set up that source and go back to do that, because I didn't really do all of that at the time when I intended to. So are there any questions that you all have right now that I can answer or show you how to do something here? Let me just finish up with this test scene. You can all see the OBS. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and load a source here. Add, let's say I wanted to use a media source. It gives you the chance to add existing ones that you've already uploaded or create a new one. And here is just a little countdown that I got off of the internet on a royalty-free website that I put on my service to start my live stream before my broadcast, so that there's a countdown and people aren't like, it's not started yet, it's not started, it's not working, I don't see anything. So that this gives them some dynamic content, and you can actually then add an image. Say you want to add an image. You can add a slideshow too if you want to get creative. It can go over a few images. And so let's say I'm going to add existing image to this one that I used before. Okay, and now to move the countdown to the top of it, I just click on, I move it up in the list here of sources, and then it's on top. And as long as they're unlocked, you can right click and you'll get lock preview if you don't want to have it move, or unlock preview. You can change the size of this, move it around, put it wherever you need it to be. And then once you lock your preview, it won't go anywhere. You can scale the size of any of these things to go on top of the other one. You can even put in like say a web browser or something like that. Let's remove this and add a browser, create new, okay. And you can have it be a source in your screen. So you can set the URL to what you want it to be and the size of it. And let's see if that works. Yep, there's our church webpage on the front. And if you unlock the preview, you can scale it. But remember, you set the default size. It was set to like 800 by 600, so it looks goofy. But Pretty cool, huh? I mean, and this is all stuff that you can do. You can share a video from YouTube if you have permission. You know, all right here. But know that using your browser is going to use up some CPU resources and memory. So don't go crazy with this stuff if you expect it to work well. All right. I think that that's mostly what I wanted to share with you. And I want to say that you can email me or send me a Facebook message if you have a specific question or if you're having trouble with a source. I can try and help you out. There's a big community online. Some of the great things about open source software is that there's a lot of people who already learned what you need to learn and are willing to teach you. I've got a couple of links, or I'm gonna share with you a document, in the chat if I can find it. Let me see. Pretty sure I closed that browser. Oh, ain't it fun? All right. But yeah, I'm gonna share some links with you that I think would be helpful, and especially for those of you who are wanting to learn how to do the lyrics. If you're going to do that, I really strongly recommend, you can do it by yourself, but trust me, it is very difficult to advance your lyrics on time because there's a little bit of a delay and your mind is so many other places as you're trying to lead worship that I don't recommend it. I really strongly recommend that you have a tech person available to advance those lyrics to you. I created a document on Google Docs that I'm planning to add some things to and update as well over time. It's taken me a while to get apparently the sharing link because of the bandwidth issues right now, but let's see, what am I screen sharing at the moment? Okay. Let's just stop that share. All right, and again, I would just say that if there's any questions that anyone has or specific things that you want to know, hang on a second. Okay, anybody with the link can view, copy link. All right, great. Question, I've seen pastors do a thing with two cameras simultaneously with a large one in most of the screen. Yeah, you can actually do that, Rachel. And I'm just putting up the link to the Google Doc that has the link to the lyrics on there. Yeah, here, let me see if I can do it really quick. It's gonna be hard because my camera's occupied with Zoom right now. Let me see if I can deactivate my Zoom camera, and I think I can show you how to do that quickly. Share screen, OBS. Okay. And now, I gotta stop my video, or at least change it. I'm gonna change it to the rear camera. There's a nice post view for you. Okay, and then I'll go here in OBS. All right, so you wanted to add 2 video sources. All right, I'm gonna remove this and I'm gonna remove the other one to have 2. Now, obviously this is gonna take some resources to do. So, but if you have a computer that's powerful enough to do it, you should be able to. Let's add the front camera and mic. Hello. There we go. And now let's add another source. Let's add the back, or let's add the secondary camera. Oops, I added the wrong thing. A media source instead of a capture device. Okay, and now one of them is behind the other one, I think. All right, so let's see if it'll do both at the same time. Oh, look at that. Look how fancy we are. And if you want to put one on the top, if you want to put one of them on the top, you just move it like that. So yeah, I mean, it works. It's reporting that it's using 16% of my CPU right now. So not too bad. But, you know, I would really test that before doing it live to make sure it's going to work. One way to do that as well that would be better is to reduce your source resolution to 720p and then have your resolution on screen match that, because if it's not trying to scale it up or down, it's going to use less computer resources. So if you had to show two cameras at the same time, I would recommend cutting it down to a smaller resolution to make that less of a burden on the processor. Other questions? That was a great question, by the way. So let me just say that using the stop the share here. Okay, and turn my video back to me. Okay, there's a lot of things that you know you can figure out whether you need to or not. One other thing I just want to cover is remuxing your recording, which sounds like a really funny word, but it's basically just changing the digital format. After your recording, you really need to remux it to MP4 because it does not save in MP4 format. It saves in MKV format, but it's really not a big deal. Remuxing, it just takes a minute or so, and I'm gonna just show this to you. But that makes for a speedier upload to YouTube. I think YouTube will convert your video, but they already take so long. So to remux, you just go here to File, Remux Recordings. You've used these dots here to find your original recording, the target file, and then it just creates an MP4 version of that file in about a minute or two, maybe, of processing. It's not a big deal, but it's a lot better to do that and then upload that. What I actually do is I upload, I trim it. I trim off the countdown from the beginning on my video editor before I upload it to YouTube. Facebook Live, after you upload it, will let you trim off the beginning of that if you haven't discovered that already in your use of Facebook Live. You can go, it's a little hard to find. You have to poke around into edit my video. So you probably have to go to your video list and then edit my video, but it will let you trim off any pre-roll that you have on your service, which I do because, you know, you don't want people to wait or have to fast forward 5 minutes of countdown to, you know, get to your video. So that's what I do every week. It's worked out pretty well for me, except there have been some audio issues with mics clipping. My pianist is really loud. But theoretically, you could, you know, if you have a USB mixing board, you could probably hook up a USB mixing board as a sound source in this and have really super control over your sound. But I find that this does well enough for my needs. But if you have a complex worship that you're trying to do, or if you want to grow in the future, maybe someday when we can get back together, know that this tool could grow with you. There's a lot of good stuff out there, and computers, even the most basic computers, can really do this now, which is just amazing compared to with where they were 10 years ago. You'd have to have a pretty fancy rig to do this kind of video production. Oh, looks like there might be another or something here. Okay, well, nope, I don't know. All right. Well, thanks everybody. I hope this has been helpful. I saw a little message come up. All right, thank you all. And I will share this on YouTube. I'll try and come up with some things that may be more helpful as a guide and work on that paper as well that I sent you a Google Doc to, so that you have some basics. But hopefully this was helpful. I hope you're not too intimidated by the settings. Trust me, the ability to schedule your videos and promote them and get people at the same place at the same time is huge, is very huge. I think that it's putting us at a real advantage over other churches in town that I can promote my service ahead of time and have that link there and have everything be in one place. And if you have a decent laptop, give it a try. It's better than your phone. It is. Thank you all. If there's no more questions, I appreciate your time. Blessings on your ministry and on your day. See you guys later.